Glad to see you still around. Had some internet difficulties and went through hell to finish the vids. Also considered to make good old 20-chapter videos, cause they are easier to make. But I didn't like the idea. 3-hour vids are optimal for listening IMO. See, here we are, back on track. Today will be released 2 videos instead of 1. As thanks for eagerly waiting. Let's get started. Hope you enjoy. This is Affinity, Chaos, Chapter 508. Boom. A figure was sent flying from the place of the explosion. Bang. The figure crashed heavily into the platform. When the crowd stared at the figure, they were stunned when they realized it was unexpectedly the young man. Looking at where the young man was previously standing, they saw Gray standing there, gasping a little for his breath. Before they could process what was happening, Gray had shot towards the young man who was still on the ground. Boom, bam, bang. Within a few moves, he sent the young man flying once again. Crash. The young man bounced off the ground, and just before his body could get to the ground again, Gray appeared, slamming a large ice hammer into his body. Bang! The young man was sent flying again, this time heading towards the crowd, away from the platform. Bang! He slammed into the ground just below the first row of seats, blood dripping from the side of his mouth, not showing any signs of moving. Those related to him hurried towards where he crashed. After checking and seeing that he was only unconscious, they heaved a sigh of relief. It was only after this did everyone turn to look at Gray in amazement. Even the lady who had been with him for a while still had this expression on her face. It was clear that even she didn't know of this skill. In the special area, what an impressive skill. He switched places with his opponent just before the explosion happened, the lady remarked. The others nodded with a serious expression. This was a skill that would take anyone unaware. What Gray did was simple. The attack he did was only a feint. What he really did was not only causing an explosion, but he improved the force of the young man's attack, while using the chance to switch places with the young man. There was no way the young man would expect that he would be thrown into such a predicament. Hence he was unable to set up a defense against it, which caused his defeat. With such a move, will anyone be able to defeat him? The faction leader asked. It will be difficult, but they should. Well, as long as he doesn't have any more surprises. An old lady from one of the big families replied. From what he's shown so far, do you think he doesn't have more surprises? The faction leader asked. Although he hadn't been in contact with Gray for long, he could tell he was a very cautious person. There was no way someone that cautious would show all his cards. There is definitely something he was still hiding, something more powerful. But the truth was, he didn't really need it, since only this skill was enough to deter anyone from recklessly attacking him. As long as all his opponents were holding back, he could easily dominate some of them. Those in the special area weren't the only ones who were discussing the skill Gray just showed. The entire arena was abuzz because of it. From thinking Gray was defeated to seeing him miraculously changing positions with the young man, defeating him in the process. The rest of the challengers stared at Gray in trepidation. It wasn't that they weren't confident in their abilities, but this ability of Gray's was just too unpredictable. If they send out a powerful attack and he suddenly switches places with them, then they would be in danger of not only receiving their own moves, but also Gray's attacks. The head of the Gale family lost more hope when he saw Gray's new skill. Initially, he hosted this event to see who would be able to help him get revenge. But now, he didn't think anyone would be able to. Even if they could beat Gray, none of them could kill him before the lady intervenes. He asked Gray if he wanted to continue, and Gray shook his head, opting to take a break. He didn't say anything, taking a seat as well. His expression showed disappointment and anger. Gray was right in front of him, but he couldn't do anything to him. He even sent some geniuses who he thought might be able to do at least a small amount of damage to Gray, but it was futile. Gray even fought them together, and none of them managed to hit him. Petra was his best hope of harming Gray with her poison-like attacks, but it was even more hopeless. While Gray was still resting, he heard a voice in his head. "All right, mission accomplished. You can stop fighting now," Void said. "Oh, all right. I'll fight 2 more battles before losing," Gray replied. In the special area, Void soon appeared from nowhere, jumping into the lap of the lady who was sitting close to the faction leader. None of the people there noticed when he appeared. Even the lady, it was only after she felt him on her lap, did she realize he was back. A smile formed on her face before she turned to look at Gray, her eyes clearly telling him to give up immediately, so they could leave this place. The reason she set up this battle was surprisingly because of this. Initially, she only planned to take what Void wanted, but the idea suddenly came to her when she realized Void could actually sneak through any array setup. This was when she had the grand plan of stealing from all the big families at the same time. Gray, on the other hand, wanted to see how far he could go, so there was no way he was planning to give up now. Such a strange cat. When did it come here? The faction leader was the first to notice Void. He's been here for a while now, but how would you notice him when you're praying your students defeat that kid? The lady replied casually. Oh, I didn't take note, don't mind me. The faction leader quickly ended the conversation. Gray had been beating people up for a while now. It would be a shame if the lady decided to continue their battle from before. 20 minutes later, I'm ready. Gray stood up, walking to the center of the platform. Chapter 509. Begin. Boom. Bam. Gray's last opponent in the second stage didn't hold anything back while attacking. Of course, he was aware of Gray's ability to switch places with his opponent, but he just doesn't seem to care, or at least that was how it looked given how recklessly he was attacking. He was from the Pyro faction, which meant he was using the fire element. His attacks were powerful, more than that of any of the people Gray had ever fought against. Seeing the raging flames coming towards him, Gray knew blocking it was completely out of question. With a swift movement, he dodged to the right, making sure he escaped from the range of that attack. His expression soon changed the moment he dodged the attack. The reason for this was because there was a figure made entirely of fire, standing over 2 meters tall, that suddenly appeared before him. He didn't need anyone to tell him what it was, an elemental warrior, and a high grade one to boot. Bam! The elemental warrior sent a punch towards him. Gray crossed his hands in front of him, ice quickly spreading across them to increase his defense. But he was effortlessly sent flying by the elemental warrior. Swoosh! Bang! He slammed into the ground heavily, bouncing off a few times. Just as his body bounced off the ground for the 4th time, the elemental warrior appeared beside him, giving him a powerful kick on the side of his stomach. That sent him shooting into the sky. Bam! Gray was sent well over 15 meters into the air, giving off a trail of ice as he shot up. He managed to use the water element to create ice around his body. That helped block the attack of the elemental warrior. Although he was able to block it, he still faced the full brunt of the attack, which rocked him. The kick made him feel like his organs had all moved positions, causing him a lot of pain. Damn it. I need to find a way to fight back, Gray thought while still mid-air. This wasn't his first time fighting against elemental warriors, so he knew just how powerful they could get. The elemental warrior appeared in the sky, while Gray was spiraling down, throwing a punch at his chest. This time, instead of using ice, Gray opted to use water instead, trying to soften the punch, while also praying that it slowed it down enough for him to quickly escape. Luckily, the water managed to halt the movement of the punch, just in time to give him the chance to use the space element to dodge. The fist of the elemental warrior gave off a huge amount of steam, since it was made of flames. Boom! Gray's figure suddenly appeared behind the elemental warrior, adorned in ice armor from head to toe. He punched the head of the elemental warrior, infusing all 4 elements into his attack. Bam! Bang! Crash! The elemental warrior came crashing down from the blow, landing heavily on the ground. It created a large dust cloud on the platform as it landed. But before long, its flaming red figure could be seen shooting towards Gray. Bam! Bang! Boom! They started exchanging blows mid-air. Gray punched as if his life depended on it, dodging as many blows as he could while also delivering some powerful ones. The crowd was surprised by Gray's approach in this battle. Even though they knew from the start that his physical strength was high, none of them actually expected him to fight against an elemental warrior with his fist. Naturally, the fight was nothing short of amazing in their eyes. They cheered as Gray and the elemental warrior fought across the entire platform, one figure covered in ice, and the other made entirely of flames. It was like a battle of 2 contrasting elements. Those in the special area watched on seriously as well. Everyone knew just how powerful elemental warriors could get, and seeing Gray fighting against it was kind of refreshing to watch. Bang! Gray slammed into the ground heavily, but quickly bounced up, coating himself with the lightning element. He dodged to the side to make sure the elemental warrior's follow-up attack didn't hit him. Moving his fingers as if drawing multiple seals, he created a lightning attack that covered a span of over 5 cubic meters, perfectly hitting the elemental warrior with the repeated attacks. This attack focused on the speed of the elementalist, since it involved attacking repeatedly with a series of lightning strikes from different angles, all done by the elementalist. If the elementalist is slow, then the attack wouldn't be able to carry any powerful punch. The elemental warrior was forced to take a few steps back, before creating a fire sword that it used to block most of Gray's attacks. Gray quickly took out a blade from his storage ring. Of course, it wasn't the one he acquired from the Gale family. Although the quality was a little lacking, he felt he could make do with it. Not just that, but while he was attacking a few moments ago, he had also created the array he made when fighting against Phoebe. Bang, bam. They started exchanging attacks with swords, Gray looking as if he was in every single part of the platform. The attacks were powerful, sending out countless raging flames and lightning in all directions. Luckily, there was a special array that stopped any of the attacks from getting to the crowd. Just when everyone was still engrossed in the battle, it suddenly stopped. The reason for this was because Gray's sword was currently placed on the neck of the young man from the Pyro faction, and the elemental warrior was a distance away. Gray's eyes were cold, clearly saying that if the young man didn't stop his elemental warrior, then he would end him. Hair! A grin formed on the face of the young man. Boom! Gray was pushed back when an explosion suddenly occurred, with him bearing the brunt of the attack. Chapter 510. Hair! How reckless of you! Did you think I would be defenseless when my elemental warrior was fighting? The young asked with a smirk. He had been watching Gray since he summoned his elemental warrior, and he surprisingly noticed that Gray focused entirely on it, not giving any attention to him. Gray was lucky he actually tried to attack him at the time he did, or else he had been preparing a powerful attack that would have been able to kill him. Although the elemental warrior took a lot of essences, he could still fight against Gray with his elemental warrior active. Bang! Gray crashed into the ground, rolling before quickly standing up. Looks like I miscalculated. Unlike the Azure continent, people here can easily fight with their elemental warriors active. I was lucky this time. This is a mistake that could cost a life, he thought seriously. If not for his speed in retreating, he would have been seriously hurt by the attack. At the time he placed the sword on the neck of the young man, he was completely carefree, not even setting up a defense or anything, since he didn't think the young man was of any threat anymore. Luckily for him, he learned his lesson, although slightly bruised. It wasn't really anything serious. My mistake, but I can assure you, you've also taken me too lightly. Gray replied to the young man's words. Snap. With a snap of his hands, a light lit up on the platform. It was in the shape of a hexagon. It was the array he learned from that group who captured the barbarians. This time, instead of using it in an inscription, he created a large array with it, almost covering the entire platform. The advantage of this was that he could attack the young man and the elemental warrior as long as they were standing on the platform with it. Not just that, but he could also defend with it. While the array was lighting up, 2 inscriptions appeared mid-air, one on the left and one on the right. This is me taking you seriously, Gray said after everything was set up. Haha, I must say all these are impressive. But do you have the mental capacity to use all of them at the same time? The young man scoffed. They all looked impressive, but his question was right. It would require a large amount of mental strength to control them, while also attacking personally as well. It was like dividing your attention into 4 separate parts. Why don't we check it out? Gray asked challengingly. I'm going all out this time. Although I wouldn't be using all my elements, it wouldn't really change much. I've improved significantly since the start of the battle, and I need to fight those stronger. Unfortunately, I'm not sure I can defeat any of them without the fusion state, Gray thought to himself. He knew his strength fighting against this young man was already very taxing for him. It would be almost impossible for him to defeat those powerful individuals in the 3rd stage. There are of course a few who aren't as strong as this young man here, but it still didn't mean he could defeat them easily. Alright, don't disappoint me. The young man smiled before attacking. His elemental warrior dashed towards Gray while the young man attacked. An ice shield sprouted out of the ground, blocking the attack of the young man, while causing steam to rise up into the air. Bang! Gray and the elemental warrior got entangled in a fistfight once again. Not just that, but his inscriptions were attacking the young man, keeping him at bay. Whenever he manages to attack, the array would block the attacks, making sure Gray's battle with the elemental warrior wasn't disturbed. Attacks flew left and right, large explosions occurring at the same time. Not just that, but Gray and the young man were occasionally sent flying by each other's attacks. The elemental warrior was occasionally sent flying, but in the battle against Gray, it clearly had the advantage. In the stands, the crowd watched the battle with their bloods boiling. This fight has been nothing short of thrilling. Even if Gray wins or loses, they wouldn't feel bad. Some of them were even grateful he was able to give them such exciting battles. Although they didn't know him, they were unconsciously rooting for him to win. But they were all certain of one thing: if Gray were to break through to the Overlord plane, then he would dominate the rankings, shooting straight to the top of the early stages rankings for Overlord plane elementalists. Some of them were even hoping to see him again, after he has broken through to the Overlord plane. He was already this powerful while still in the Origin plane. To what extent would his strength be when he breaks through to the Overlord plane? This was something that had everyone here curious. While the crowd was watching fervently, the battle raged on, getting more aggressive. Blood could be seen dripping from some parts of Gray's body. The young man wasn't any better. The blue vest was completely out of essence, since it had been protecting Gray since the start of the battle. Bang, boom. The young man was sent flying after being attacked by one of the inscriptions. This time, the attack came from nowhere. After he landed on the ground, a wound could be seen on his back. Gritting his teeth, he stood up. When he looked around, he noticed a slight change on the platform. Damn these space elementalists, he cursed internally. Gray had added a space array to the platform. This meant that he could move his attacks to wherever he wanted. Bang! Gray crashed into the ground after suffering from a blow from the elemental warrior. Splat! He spat out a mouthful of blood. His clothes were torn, and blood could be seen dripping from the left side of his lips. He cleaned it before staring at the young man. Their gazes met, each seeing the unyielding eyes of each other. Presently, they both knew that the battle would be decided shortly. Whoever manages to hold on the longer would be able to win this battle. Due to controlling 2 arrays and 2 inscriptions, Gray's attention was slightly divided, meaning the elemental warrior, which was originally more powerful than he was, is starting to largely gain the upper hand in the battle. Boom. The elemental warrior attacked again, forcing Gray to dodge. Gray once again started his battle with the elemental warrior, while the young man focused on the inscriptions and arrays. His current motive was to last longer than Gray. Bam, boom. As time went on, each started getting hit more frequently, crashing into the ground. It was complete chaos since Gray would be sent flying, but the next second, the young man would also be sent flying. Bang, boom. The attacks didn't stop ringing on the platform, while the sound of fists hitting each other also rang out. It was a brutal fight, and the crowd knew only one of them would be able to come out on top. 5 minutes later, bang, bang, both Gray and the young man slammed into the ground simultaneously, crashing a few meters away from each other. The elemental warrior slowly started to fade, but it wasn't the only thing. The arrays as well as the inscriptions also faded away. The crowd stared at the platform, waiting for who would be the first to stand up. Whoever stands up first will most likely win the battle. Chapter 511. Gray, who was lying on the ground, opened his eyes. He raised his hand, dragging his exhausted body up. In the stands, "Look, that guy is the first to stand up," someone said when they saw Gray moving. The young man who was beside him wasn't showing any signs of standing up, still lying motionless on the ground. The crowd watched on as Gray managed to get in a kneeling position, placing 2 hands on his laps, trying to catch his breath. On the platform, sigh, "I'm wrecked. If only I could use all my elements, I wouldn't have been this badly beaten," Gray thought while gasping for air. He looked around and noticed he was the only one who was up. After resting for a few seconds, he stood up. Clank. As soon as he stood, his mask fell off his face, making a clanking sound as it hit the ground. Gray raised his hand, touching his face. It had been a long time since he was without a mask, so when the mask left his face, it felt like he was missing something. The mask wasn't the only thing that wasn't on him. His upper clothes had been completely burned down, leaving his bare upper body. For the first time, the lady, as well as the entire crowd, saw the face behind the mask, and they were all taken aback. Gray was unaware of the crowd's reaction towards seeing his face. He walked towards the young man who had his eyes opened, but was unable to stand up. "Looks like you won," the young man said in between breaths. "Yeah." Gray nodded before offering him a hand. "It's of no use. I don't think I can stand for a while," the young man said. "Huh!" the young man suddenly exclaimed lightly. It was only after calming down did he get a proper look at Gray's face, and he was surprised since he almost felt he was a girl. Gray noticed this before scratching the back of his head in embarrassment. He waved for the people to come over to help take the young man away. After doing that, he looked up, and he could feel every single eye in the arena was on him. But they weren't looking at him like someone who won a battle, rather, it was as if they were trying to discern his gender. He shook his head dejectedly. This was one of the reasons he didn't actually take off the mask after coming to this new continent. Although no one knew him, he knew his face would definitely put him in trouble. Such a drag? Why do they always have this type of reaction? He thought dejectedly. While he was looking around, some people walked into the platform, taking the young man he fought against. "Will you continue?" the head of the Gale family asked. He clearly knew the answer to the question, but he couldn't help himself from doing this. He was hoping Gray's head would be clouded by pride, which would make him say yes. Given his current state, whoever fights against him next might be able to kill him instantly, not giving him a chance to admit defeat. "I don't even think I can fight anymore, much less continuing," Gray replied calmly. His body was a wreck. He would need at least a day or two before he would get back in shape. If he uses the healing tonic he got from the Blooming Vipers though, then he should be fine within a day. "Are you admitting defeat?" the head of the Gale family asked, wanting to confirm his words. Gray nodded. There was no way he could continue fighting in this condition. If he uses the fusion state, he would be perfectly healed. But in a place where he could barely trust the lady who was traveling with him, it wasn't wise to show off all of his trump cards. Sigh. "All right, the battles have ended," the head of the Gale family announced with a dejected expression. "Since you managed to defeat all your opponents so far, I've decided to reward you with this." A booming voice suddenly from the special area. Looking up, the faction leader of the Pyro faction could be seen slowly floating down, accompanied by the lady. A scroll appeared on his hand which he threw in Gray's direction. Gray caught it, keeping it. He wanted to study it. But this wasn't the time. Since he was done with the fight, then it was naturally time for them to leave this place, especially after what happened while they were fighting. Of course, no one would suspect them since they were here all through the time of the theft, but he still didn't want any questions to be asked. "Why didn't you tell me you were this handsome? Anyway, it doesn't matter now. Come, we're leaving. It's time to get back at those old tramps," the lady said, dragging Gray's exhausted body along with her. "What do you mean to get back at those old tramps? Can you please let me off in whatever plan you're hatching?" Gray begged while being dragged. "HMPH, stop showing off because you're handsome. If not that there is no one else who fits the bill for this job, I wouldn't take you as well," the lady said as they left the arena. "But I don't want to go," Gray complained. Seeing the departing figure of Gray and the lady, the faction leader heaved a sigh of relief while also feeling a sense of pity for Gray, who seems to be bullied by the lady. From their exchange, it was clear to see that she wanted to make use of Gray's appearance to get revenge on some people. Gray naturally wanted no part in her schemes. He looked in the direction they were headed. After confirming that it was where the teleportation array was located, he took off, flying away quickly. The head of the Gale family stared around, his eyes filled with anger. Of everyone here, only the Gale family had angry expressions. Their purpose for organizing the event didn't happen. Instead, they allowed Gray to make a name for himself. Soon, his exploits here is bound to spread across the entire region. It was the rise of a new genius. Chapter 512. Gray's battle in Ernst City quickly spread across the entire Gale region. An elementalist who was still at the peak of the origin plane fought against hundreds of people, although not at the same time, but on the same day. He defeated every single person that fought against him. Even though he never fought against those in the third stage of the Overlord plane, it didn't change the fact that in the battle, he never lost. From the group of people he defeated, it was said that some top individuals in the geniuses rankings were among them, and the highest amongst the people he defeated was ranked 29th. In the geniuses rankings, Petra was higher ranked than the young man Gray fought against last. But the story of Gray's rise wasn't the only news that spread from Ernst City that day. All the big families reported that their treasury was raided, and what was more shocking was that the guards didn't get a single glimpse of the thief. Given the time of the theft, some of the people speculated it might have been the work of Gray and the lady, while others felt the thief took advantage of the information of the battle being spread out, striking at the same time. All in all, they was just speculations. No one knew who the thief was or where Gray and the lady were. In a city thousands of kilometers away from Ernst City, Gray and the lady could be seen sitting in an inn, enjoying the tea they ordered. "You've become a celebrity," the lady said when she heard people talking about Gray's performance, although they didn't know he was the one there. Gray, who already had his mask back on, scoffed at this. He had never wanted things like this. Since he didn't enjoy being surrounded by people other than his friends, he didn't really enjoy the company of others. If Klaus or Reynolds were to be the ones who people are speaking of like this, they would definitely try to find a way to make sure everyone knew they were the ones they were talking about. "Are you like a sadist or something?" the lady asked when she saw Gray's reaction. Most youngsters would be over the moon if they were this famous and handsome. Yet Gray seems to see it as nothing more than a disturbance to his peaceful life. If not for the fact that she had confirmed that Gray was truly 18 years old, she would have thought that he was an old monster who had lived thousands of years. So he's no longer bothered with the things of the mundane world. "How far are we from the Polaris region?" Void asked while tasting the tea. He immediately spat it afterward. Gray shook his head when he saw this. "Before taking out the map, we still have a long way to go. Even if we continue using the teleportation array non-stop, it would still take us at least a month before we can get there." "That long? How big is this place even?" Void asked, shocked. "They've traveled what seemed to be the equivalent of double the Killen Empire these past 2 weeks. Yet, they would still need a month or so before getting there. And all this was with the help of teleportation arrays, which made things easier." Gray shrugged, not knowing what to say. In these past weeks, he had been training diligently, focusing on increasing his elemental grades as well as the strength of his body. He checked out the scroll the Pyro faction leader gave him, and it was a powerful fire attack. He rarely used these types of skills when attacking, but they were more powerful compared to his impromptu attacks. The name of the technique was Dragon's Roar. When a fire elementalist uses the attack, a faint shadow of a dragon would appear on their back, made entirely of elemental essence. It would open its mouth to spit out a powerful stream of flames that had tremendous destructive power. Gray had been practicing for quite some time now, but he hadn't been able to fully master it. The lady had been impressed with Gray's learning speed so far, given how quickly he manages to learn new skills. She had also noticed he seemed to be obsessed with arrays, always trying to figure out ways to decipher anyone he sees. Gray had finally managed to summon the confidence to ask her of her name. It was Sylvia. When Gray heard her name, his thoughts were for someone who bullies people. "You have a nice name." But of course, these were his thoughts. If he dared to voice it out, then Sylvia would most likely beat the crap out of him. "This is the border of the Gel region. Once we leave this place, then we'll be entering the Acer region. They're around the same level as the Gel region," Sylvia said. "Wait, we're still in the Gel region?" Void asked. "Yes. Are you two from a forest hidden somewhere or something?" Sylvia asked, staring at the two suspiciously. "You could say that," Gray replied, not saying anything more. Sylvia put on a thoughtful expression. "We should leave. I still have a long way to go." Gray picked up his tea before taking a sip. Sylvia and Void nodded. After a few minutes sitting in the inn, the trio left, heading towards the teleportation array in the city. On the way, Gray heard of youths who were speaking of wanting to challenge him, saying the geniuses he defeated were weak. He couldn't help but do a double take on them, and most of them were still in the origin plane. Even though he wasn't interested in his newfound fame, he still enjoyed testing out his strength, especially now that he had improved since the battle. The battle had helped him refine his skills even more, while also giving him better control over his essence. If he were to fight with the young man who had an elemental warrior again, he was confident in winning without being left in a wrecked state. Chapter 513. The teleportation array is broken. If you want to go across the border, then you'll have to go on foot, a middle-aged man said to Gray and Sylvia when they got to where the array was located. All right. Gray nodded before turning around. Although it was a bit of a hassle, they had no problems with going on foot. Besides, moving with arrays over the past few days has been very expensive. Luckily, they were super rich from their heist, so it didn't bother them. Void stole countless essence stones, weapons, treasures, herbs, and lots more. Sylvia had already divided the resources between the three of them. She took 40%, which came as a surprise to Gray. Given how she was bullying him, he thought she would take at least 50% or so. Void took almost every single shiny item from the loot. Some were powerful treasures, while others were just antics. Gray mainly took the essence stones, which were vital to their travels, as well as books that spoke about arrays, forge mastering, and the rest. Multiple scrolls had some techniques on them, but only a few caught his eye. He hadn't started practicing them though since he was still learning others. But he felt that the most vital thing he had was the book which spoke on elemental grades. He still didn't know about all the elemental grades until now. From his previous knowledge, he was aware of 5, adding the cyan grade, which made it 6. But he didn't know how high it was. In the book, he found out there were a total of 9 elemental grades, namely pink, orange, purple, blue, violet, red, cyan, yellow, and emerald elemental grades. There is a rumor about there being a 10th elemental grade, black and white. It was said that there have been cases of people who had either black or white elemental grades over the years, and they always grow to be more powerful compared to others. They were both regarded at the same level since it was unknown which of them was stronger. Roar, boom. A faint roar was accompanied by a stream of fire which sent a group of men flying. "Why are you being so lenient? Kill them already," Sylvia said when she saw the power of Gray's attack. "I'm working on my techniques," Gray replied, before dashing towards the group of 5 who were trying to get back up. "Please Lord, this is all a misunderstanding. We won't bother you again." One of the men quickly got to his knees when they saw the extent of Gray's powers. Gray squinted his eyes, studying the group. He had never been the type who would kill others on a whim. This group were people who had malicious intentions towards them. The only reason they were still alive was that he was using them to polish his skills. He didn't say a word to the group, attacking immediately. The group consisted of 5 men. 3 were in the 3rd stage of the Overlord plane, while the other 2 were in the 1st and 2nd stage respectively. When they saw Gray and Sylvia, they thought they would be easy targets to rob, hence they didn't hold back when threatening them. It was only after Gray took action did they know it was the mistake of their lives. Swoosh, bang. Gray's figure vanished, appearing beside the man in the 1st stage. He sent out a punch with his right fist which was covered in flames. Crash, boom. The man was sent flying, bouncing off the ground, before crashing into a tree. When the others looked at the man, they realized he was twitching. A hole was on his chest. After a few seconds, his figure stopped moving altogether. Their eyes enlarged, before they turned to look at Gray once again, horrified. They still thought they had a chance of escaping alive. Only after this attack did they know Gray had no plans of letting them go. "Spread out," one of the men yelled before taking the lead. The remaining 3 didn't delay, all running in different directions. "Heh, this will only make my work easier." Gray's lips curved upwards to form a smile. With 2 fingers in front of him, he waved it quickly to draw an array mid-air. The array enlarged, turning into a large lightning bow. An arrow made from fire appeared on the bow, shooting rapidly at the escaping men. Bang, bang, bam. The speed of the arrow was unimaginable, attacking swiftly. It didn't take long before all 4 men were incapacitated. Although they were not dead, they couldn't stand up on their own. Gray didn't waste any more time, killing them quickly. Void and Sylvia watched on from the side, each holding onto a piece of meat. "Great, now we can eat in peace," Sylvia said while chomping down on the meat in her hands. "Yes, make sure to dispose of the bodies. Also, don't forget to loot the bodies," Void remarked, before pausing and adding, "You know what? Why don't I help you with disposing and looting of the bodies? You know you need to take a break after fighting." Gray looked at the shameless cat in front of him, and couldn't help but shake his head. In the end, he let Void do whatever he wanted. It wasn't like he was low on items anyway. The big families from Ernst City were loaded with treasures. If not for the fact that he didn't want to advance with the help of treasures, then he might have broken through some time ago. Presently, he was working on his elemental grades, trying to improve all of them, before he tries to break through to the Overlord plane. Unlike the previous planes, breaking through to the Overlord plane was a little more difficult. For the other planes, what an elementalist needs to break through was gathering as much elemental essence as they could, but in the aspect of the Overlord plane, it required the elementalist to gain a high understanding of their element. The elementalist would be reborn from their elements when breaking through. This is what gives them the ability to forcefully gain control of the elemental attacks of those weaker than them. Chapter 514. 3 weeks later, inside a cave behind a waterfall, Gray could be seen sitting in a crossed leg position. Finally, my darkness element has upgraded to the blue grade. I should be able to break through to the Overlord plane now, he muttered to himself. Void and Sylvia went out, with the reason of sitting here too boring. They were currently in the Acer region, but according to Sylvia, they should be able to leave within 2 more teleportations. During their journey, Gray had spent most of his time training whenever they weren't using teleportation arrays. Not all cities have teleportation arrays, and some of the arrays surprisingly couldn't take them to where they wanted, so they had to use another form of transportation to get to a city that could let them teleport. Then there are times when the teleportation arrays were broken, and since they didn't want to wait, they decided to head to the next city. Hey, are you done? Sylvia asked before walking into the cave. Oh, eerie, she said after walking in. Gray looked at her, before picking up his mask. Yeah, we should get going, he replied. After the increase of his darkness elemental grade, he was giving off an eerie aura. Initially, he thought they would take a while before coming, but who knew they would arrive sooner than expected. All right. Sylvia nodded before taking another glance at the cave. They went outside, and Void was standing on top of a carriage. What's that? Gray couldn't help but ask. They were in the middle of a forest. Where the hell did this two go and get a carriage from? Our ride. We bought it, Void replied. Gray looked at the duo, shaking his head. He could already tell that somewhere in the forest, there is a group of people who would be walking on foot after being robbed. Sylvia wasn't too interested in robbing things this small, but Void on the other hand wouldn't mind. Besides, he could see shiny things all around the carriage, so he knew the reason he stole it. What about him? Did you buy him as well? Gray pointed at the man who was riding the horses. No, he volunteered to come with us, Void replied. All right, we should get going, Gray said, too tired to ask any more questions. He was currently focused on how he would be able to break through to the Overlord plane. He felt he had gained a good understanding of his elements, since he had been comprehending them from when he started cultivating. Later that day, the carriage came out of the forest. In front of them was a large city. You can head back now, Gray said to the coachman. Sylvia and Void looked at Gray, but came down as well. Thank you, young lord, the coachman said to Gray, before turning the carriage around, heading into the forest. The trio headed towards the city on foot. After getting to the city, they headed straight to where the teleportation array was located. Once they use it, they would arrive at the last city before leaving the Acer region. After the Acer region, there was still around 2 regions between them and the Polaris region. The journey overall would take the trio at least 3 months or so. If they were fast, they might arrive before the 3rd month. Ernst City. The Gell family. The head of the Gell family was currently standing in front of 3 men who were seated. 2 of the men looked to be around their late 50s, while the last one was around his early 30s. Did you say she passed through here? One of the men in his late 50s asked gently. Yes, she was accompanied by a youth who has a black cat. The head of the Gell family answered quickly. Do you know of this boy? The other man in his 50s turned to the man in his early 30s. No, teacher, maybe it is someone she decided to teach on the way, the man in his early 30s replied. The head of the Gell family went on to tell the trio of what happened when Gray and Sylvia came to the city. She always causes trouble wherever she goes, one of the men in his late 50s said. We should hurry, those from the Pharaoh faction are after her. If they get to her before we do, then sigh. The man in his early 30s said, a little dejected. Thank you for your help. We'll be leaving now. The trio stood up, before walking out of the building. The head of the Gell family had his head bowed till they left. These were people he couldn't dare to offend. They were from the Middle Continent, and even the smallest family in the Middle Continent, could wipe out their family easily. Of all the continents, the middle continent is the smallest one, but also the most powerful. That was where all the powerhouses had strongholds. 20 minutes after the trio left, another group walked into the hall from inside the building. The group consisted of 5 individuals, and person in front was a youth around Gray's age. You see, I wasn't lying. I really did not know where they went to, the head of the Gale family said to the other group who just walked into the building. This group were dressing extravagantly, and arrogant looks were on their faces. Fine. The boy you speak of, what does he look like? A young man who looked to be around 18 years old asked. He wears a black mask covering half of his face. But he's also very handsome. The head of the Gale family described Gray to them. What's his cultivation stage? The young man asked. He's at the peak of the origin plane, but he managed to defeat geniuses in the second stage of the overlord plane. With the abilities he showed, he should be able to fight against a few in the third stage as well. Oh, and he's a space elementalist as well, the head of the Gale family replied. You call these weaklings geniuses? Truly a village bumpkin. But since he's a space elementalist, he might be interesting, the young man said. Chapter 515. Gray, Sylvia, and Void were currently seated in a restaurant eating a delicious meal, oblivious to the fact that they were being searched for. They were currently in Brook City, the last city before leaving the Ares region. This is good, we should find a way to learn it, Void said after emptying his bowl of food. Since when did you start cooking? Gray asked. I mean, you should learn how to cook it, Void said, trying to convince Gray into waiting to learn it, just like they did previously in Eagles City. Although this is good, it isn't worth our time. We should focus on getting you stronger, Sylvia butted in. Gray looked at Sylvia, unsure of what to say. Is there a reason you're doing this? He couldn't help but ask. Sylvia had been helping him with his training for some time now, and given his personality, he didn't think she was only doing it because she wanted to help. There must be a reason behind this. No, is it wrong if I want you to grow strong? Besides, it isn't like it's a bad thing for you, Sylvia replied. It's not, but that's on the premise that we knew each other. I do not know who you are, nor do you know who I am. To be honest, I find your character a little suspicious, Gray said. Haha, since I mean you no harm, that should be enough for you, right? Sylvia laughed. Well, Gray wanted to speak, but after sensing Sylvia's threatening gaze, he shut his mouth. Why did I even look at the battle in the first place? He complained, but he couldn't deny it. She has been a great help. If not for her setting up that battle, then there was no way they would have been able to acquire so many essence stones for traveling. Presently, they've only used about 1/10 of the stones they obtained. They shouldn't have any problems with getting to their destination before the stones run out. Since we've come to terms with this, then let's get going. You'll continue training like usual, but this time you'll need target practice as well. With me here with you, that shouldn't be a problem, Sylvia said. I'm going to spar with you, Gray asked, slightly terrified of his possible outcome if this was what happened. Of course not. I would hold back so I won't kill you, but others won't. You'll be challenging all these so-called geniuses, just like you did in the Gale region. This is the quickest way for you to grow stronger, battles, Sylvia said. Yeah, but fighting continuously like the last time is too taxing. It would be better if I went to a competition where others would also fight, Gray replied. You're right, for a single person to fight against hundreds of people is too straining. Let's see if we can find any competition that would be held soon, Sylvia suggested. Gray looked around. He had been in the Aurora continent for around 2 months now, and he still hadn't seen Ellis, who he knew where he was located, much less his parents. He promised his friends he wouldn't be gone for more than 6 months, and he knew they would all be worried right now, since there was no way to contact him. But he also needed to grow stronger. This was the only way he would be able to search for his parents, and also live the life he wanted. While Gray spaced out, Sylvia had called a stranger, asking if there were any contests taking place in the city. The regional annual contest will be taking place in 2 days' time. Geniuses from all over the region are flocking here, hoping to get to a good position. They would also be updating the geniuses' rankings with it. The lady Sylvia called over said, Oh, is there a reward or anything? Sylvia asked. Since it was a contest, it should naturally have a reward in store for the winners. Yes, the top 10 in each ranking will be rewarded. For instance, the top 10 for elementalists in the early stages of the origin and overlord plane will be rewarded. It will go in that manner till the peak of each plane, the lady explained. Can someone compete with those in the origin plane? Then also in the overlord plane if they're powerful enough? Sylvia asked. Since there was a reward, it wouldn't be bad if Gray obtained the first position for those at the peak of the origin plane, then hopefully get into the top 10 for the one of those in the early stages of the overlord plane. Yes, there has been a case when a peak stage origin plane elementalist fought against those in the early stages of the overlord plane. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get far, the lady said, shaking her head in pity. All right, thank you for the information, Sylvia said before turning her attention to Gray. Are you up for it? She asked. Gray nodded. They finished their meal before heading into the city in search of a tavern. They soon found one not too far from the restaurant they were previously in. Gray decided he wouldn't be staying in the tavern, opting to stay in the forest where he could train comfortably without any disturbance. He mercilessly dragged Void along. Why are you taking me with you? Void asked while holding onto the table in the tavern. Because I need company, Gray said, before using lightning to zap the paws of Void, forcing him to let go of the table. Then go and find one. There's a comfy room and bed here I can sleep in. Why do you think I would want to sleep in the forest? Void complained. Shut up and follow me, Gray said, leaving the tavern with Void who was still complaining. Void could easily escape if he wanted to, but he didn't dare to, since he might offend Gray, so he hoped he could convince him with words. Unfortunately, Gray wasn't having any of that. Chapter 516. What's happening? Gray muttered in the middle of the night, staring at his hands while seated in a crossed-leg position. Given how much he had been training lately, he was already long due to breakthrough. With Sylvia with him, he asked all the questions he wasn't sure of, yet he was still unable to break through to the overlord plane. I should try it again. If I still can't, then I'll leave it at that for now. He closed his eyes. After he closed his eyes, 7 beads the size of a fist came out of his body, each having different colors, with one of them having 2 colors. These beads were the elemental beads he created when he was breaking through to the origin plane. In the overlord plane, he would need to first shatter the beads, letting the overflow of elemental essence in them wash over his body. It would first cleanse his outer body, before sipping into his body to cleanse his inners. This would not only make his physical body stronger, but it would give him better control and understanding of his elements. Once the cleansing process was done, a new type of elemental bead would form inside him, but this time, instead of a bead, it would be an orb. The 7 beads floated above his head, moving in a circle. He concentrated fully, trying to use his spiritual senses to forcefully break the elemental beads, so the cleansing process could begin. But no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to break it. 30 minutes soon went by, and Gray was starting to get frustrated from his constant failure. He had been trying the entire night, and it was already almost sunrise, yet he was still unsuccessful. I already have a great understanding of my elements. Not even some sage plane elementalists can say they have studied the elements as much as I have done. Why isn't this working? He thought in annoyance before keeping the beads back inside his body. Still unsuccessful? Void asked when he saw Gray opening his eyes. Gray nodded, a little tired from the continuous attempts. You shouldn't feel down because of it. You will get through it. Let's just assume you're stuck in a bottleneck, Void encouraged. Yeah, I'll be able to break through when the time is right. But for now, I'll occasionally try it, while also improving my elemental grades. Gray nodded before standing. All right, that's the spirit. Void jumped enthusiastically. We still haven't checked your elemental grade for your elements. I'll ask Sylvia. Since she's this powerful, then she must definitely have one of those stones, Gray said. Those stones for checking elemental grades. Void suddenly paused. Yeah, Gray nodded. I acquired one when I raided those families in Ernst City. I only took it on a whim. Who knew it would come in handy? Void laughed before bringing out one of the stones. Gray looked at the stone on the ground before looking at Void. He almost had a feeling Void didn't bring out all the items he stole from the families. The stone was around 1 meter high. It could easily be mistaken for a pillar. Whatever, I have a ton of essence stones, multiple elemental weapons, and even a better defensive elemental armor. There are also a few techniques, he said to himself. He had never been stingy, and since he didn't want to depend too much on treasures to improve himself, he wasn't too concerned about them. Alright, place your harpoon on the stone, Gray instructed. Void did as instructed and soon started giggling. What's funny? Gray couldn't help but ask. Haha, it tickles. Void laughed while replying. Gray looked at the stone before shaking his head with a smile. Void was laughing because of the energy that came out of the stone. A few seconds later, Void stopped laughing, which indicated that the energy was out of his body. You can take off your paw now, Gray said before taking a closer look at the stone. Void did as instructed while staring at the stone curiously. He too wanted to know the elemental grades of his elements. The results were soon out, and Gray could be seen rubbing his eyes furiously after seeing it, trying to affirm if what he was seeing was true. On the stone were 4 colors that indicated Void's current 4 elements, and at the middle of each of them was a bright white light. The light was almost overshadowing the colors of the elements, making it seem like they were all white in color. Is this for real? Gray asked, stunned. What's wrong? Void asked, a little worried by Gray's response. He didn't take interest in these things, so he didn't know what the white light at the center of the colors meant. Did you take only this stone? Gray asked. No, I took one more as well, Void replied before making another stone appear. This one was a few inches higher than the other one, and had a milky color. Gray told Void to repeat the same process, and after some time, the result was out. The same results. Oh shit. Void, what are you? Gray freaked out. He couldn't keep calm. When he found out about elemental grades, he was told that the white and black grades are things that rarely occur, and they were regarded as the 10th grade. Something said to be so rare was currently seen on Void, all 4 of his elements. If that wasn't shocking, what was? If news of a cat having white elemental grade in 4 elements were to go out, then the entire Aurora continent would be turned upside down. What's wrong? Void asked, worried from how Gray was staring at him. No matter what, never do this in front of strangers. If people find out about you, they'll hunt you down, Gray said with utmost seriousness. I understand. Now tell what this means. Void nodded. Gray rarely spoke in this manner, so Void knew it was something serious. But it didn't mean he didn't want to know what it meant though. Gray went on to tell him what it meant, and he couldn't stop grinning from ear to ear. Haha, I always knew Lord Cat was awesome, and you dare compare me to those filthy oversized lizards. He laughed hysterically. Chapter 517. Gray was at a loss for words when he heard Void's words, but he couldn't hide the fact that he was shocked by the result. Come on, let's head to the city to find out more about this competition, he said while walking in the direction of the city. Void vanished, appearing on his shoulder. Just as they were about to leave, Gray and Void turned to the right at the same time. There's someone there, Void said to Gray. I know. How come none of us noticed when the person came here? Gray asked. We were distracted. Whoever is there has noticed that we've realized we're being watched, but isn't doing anything to leave, Void said. We were careless. I got carried away by not being able to break through, and you were playing. Luckily, we sensed the person in time, Gray said as his expression turned serious. Void's secret should never leave this place, or else they would be in danger. This place was far more dangerous than the Azure continent. They couldn't dare to be careless. Who's there? Gray said. Heh, to think you sense me in the end. But I must say, you have one great cat. If it grows to its full potential, it would be a force to reckon with. A voice laughed from behind the bushes. The figure of a thin man stepped out. His hair was disarranged, and his clothes were loose. A skeleton? Void asked unconsciously. With skin and hair, Gray added, shocked by the state of the man who walked out. He could sense an eerie aura from the man, but his appearance was a little too strange. Gray was almost certain that the man had only skins holding onto his bones. You can laugh all you want, but after I obtain that cat, the world will know my name, the man declared while walking forward confidently. Gray studied the man, and he relaxed a little when he sensed the man was in the Overlord plane, the mid-stages. He was not as strong as the man, but if he and Void joined hands, they could take care of him. Not just that, if he uses his fusion state as well, then their victory would be further guaranteed. In your dreams, Gray said coldly. hand over the cat, boy, and maybe I might keep you alive," the man said with a sinister smile. "Heh, with the likes of you, if you leave this forest alive then you should count yourself lucky," Gray scoffed. He had always been confident showing weakness in front of this man would not do him any good, so why bother? Besides, he had Void with him. He had never seen Void cultivate or train. Yet, he was slowly growing stronger. Presently, Void is already a peak early stage rank 5 magical beast. This was equivalent to a 3rd stage Overlord Plane Elementalist. Cocky? Heh, I like your type. You would make a great specimen in my cabinet. The man laughed before spreading his hands. Poof. A puff of smoke appeared beside the man, and after the smoke died down, 3 coffins appeared beside him. Time to play, my toys. The man laughed before the coffins opened wide open. A cold chill spread out from the coffins as they opened. Gray squinted his eyes to look at the coffins, and his expression changed when he realized what was inside. Corpse. He muttered silently. A thin dark thread could be seen connecting the corpses in the coffins with the man. Swoosh. All 3 corpses shot out of the coffins simultaneously, attacking Gray with 3 different elements. One of them was using the fire element, one was using the water element, and the last of them was using the earth element. Haha, these are my precious babies, the strongest in my collection. The man laughed in a sinister manner. Bang, boom, bam. The attacks came quickly with terrifying speed. But Void was faster, using his space element. He moved himself and Gray away. This is bad, we can't fight against those things. They're all at the peak of the Overlord plane, and judging from the strength of their previous attacks, they're not your regular elementalist when they were alive. Void deducted after the first attacks. What? The peak of the Overlord plane? All 3. Damn it. Why are we always unlucky? Gray was dumbstruck by Void's words. Gray and Void appeared a few meters away from where they were previously standing. Oh, the cat is a space elementalist. Now I just want it more, the man said in excitement. What are you? Gray questioned while trying to get into the fusion state. They needed to escape quickly, and Void didn't know any long-distance teleportation techniques, unfortunately. Now, he had to use the Great Void technique, but since he could barely teleport 20 meters, he knew without the fusion state, there was no way he could travel a long distance when he was in a normal state. I'm a necromancer. There are few of us in this world, but surely we should be well known. Don't tell me you've been living in the forest, the man declared proudly. A necromancer, what's that? Gray looked at Void curiously. Void shrugged, signifying that he had no idea what it meant. What? You don't know about necromancers? The man asked wide-eyed. Gray shook his head, he truly had no idea what they were. Since you'll be joining my collection soon, I guess I could tell you a thing or two about us, the man said. However, before he continued speaking, he sent the corpses to 3 different locations, making sure it would be impossible for Gray and Void to escape if they tried to. Gray looked at the strategic positions of the corpses, and couldn't help but commend the carefulness of the man. He would do the same if he were in the same position as the man. As long as I can stall for 2 more minutes, I should be good, he thought. Chapter 518. We are special people who can reanimate the dead, making them do our bidding, the man stated proudly. Reanimate the dead, as in bringing them to life? Gray asked. His curiosity was piqued when the man said they could reanimate the dead. It was common knowledge that once someone dies, unless they keep a strand of their consciousness just like what the Chaos God did, they would be gone forever. But if there was a way to tackle death, then it would be an unbelievable discovery. Not exactly. It's more like bringing an empty shell, then using them to fight. They would still have the strength they possessed while they were alive, only without a consciousness, the man explained. Gray was stunned by this discovery. This was the first time he was hearing about something like this, so it was natural that he found it somewhat intriguing. But after hearing the proper explanation, he felt it was an evil skill. Personally, he wasn't the type who judged people on how they gained their strength, but since it involved stealing the corpse of people, he wasn't interested in learning it. Such a dishonorable way to live. Gray commented as soon as the man finished speaking. What? I took my time to tell you about us, and this is what you say? The man asked, irked by Gray's words. I might not be the most moral person, but I understand that using the corpses of people to fight is a cowardly method to begin with. Given how you obtained the corpses as well, it is even more dishonorable. Gray said. His expression was one of disgust. HMPH. What you feel doesn't matter. It's not like you'll live any longer. The man snorted angrily. Gray lips curved upwards. He had already accomplished what he wanted, so there was no need to be scared anymore. Heh, with the likes of you, impossible. He scoffed, further irritating the man. Swoosh. The corpses moved, attacking Gray from all sides. Gray smiled when he saw this. Boom. An energy wave shot out in all directions, pushing back the attacks of the corpses. It's been a while I've used this. Unfortunately, I'm not fighting, Gray said to himself before vanishing. As much as he wanted to keep Void's elemental grade a secret, he knew staying here was no different from a death wish. Even with the fusion state, he couldn't go against a single late-stage Overlord Plane Elementalist, much less 3 peak stage Overlord Plane Elementalists. Boom. The corpses attacked again, but Gray was long gone. Damn it. Where did he go? The man yelled angrily, kicking the rock close to his fort. He's also a space elementalist. He would make a fine piece in my collection. The man laughed before waving his hand. The corpses flew back to the coffins before the coffins closed shut with a bang. He kept the coffins in his storage ring before moving in the direction of the city, a smile on his face. This kid thinks he can escape after catching my eyes. The man licked his lips as his eyes turned into a slit as he smiled maliciously. Lear City. Gray appeared 150 meters away from the gate leading to the city. Sigh, we should be fine here. Come, we need to find out more about necromancers, he said to Void as they hurried towards the city. As soon as he entered the city, he felt a cold gaze on him. He paused, turning around, his eyes met with the cold eyes of Sylvia. Where are you going? I was just about to come to find you, Sylvia asked while walking closer to him. I'm heading to the city library. There's something I want to find out, Gray replied before realizing something. He turned to look at Sylvia. Do you know about necromancers? Huh? Sylvia was caught off guard by his question. The crowd around who were walking into the city turned to look at Gray suspiciously. Gray was about to say something again before Sylvia closed his mouth. Not here, she said before dragging him outside the city. Outside the city? How did you find out about necromancers? Sylvia asked coldly. Her expression was different from how she usually looked. I met one a few minutes ago. I was only able to escape after using a secret technique, Gray explained. What? Sylvia exclaimed, drawing the attention of the people who were walking into the city. Gray told her about his encounter with the skinny man, and also his narrow escape. Of course, he removed the part about Void's elemental grade. Where? Sylvia asked seriously. In that Gray exclaimed unconsciously when he noticed he was currently off the ground. He was in the middle of pointing out the location to Sylvia, but she picked him up, taking him along. Swoosh. All Gray could hear was the sound of them breaking through the wind at an unimaginable speed. He could barely see anything on the way. They soon disappeared into the forest, heading in the direction where Gray was previously cultivating. A minute later, Sylvia stopped mid-air, looking below them. The skinny man could be seen moving through the trees quickly. Buzz. Bang. Sylvia attacked the moment she caught sight of him. The trees below them were quickly shattered to pieces. She flew down, with Gray in tow, heading towards where the man was hiding. Come out, you cannot hide from me, Sylvia said before striking the ground 10 meters away with her lightning. A scream of pain rang out, and a frail figure was sent flying. Bang. The figure crashed into an already broken tree, shattering it completely. You foul man, this is your end, Sylvia said, eyes glittering with lightning. Wait, I have a huge secret to tell you, the man said, coughing out blood as he hurried to speak. There's nothing you have to say that I'm interested in, Sylvia replied before sending out an attack. Damn you, boy, heed my words, we shall hunt you down for the rest of your life, the man said, and just before Sylvia's lightning attack could touch him, he exploded, turning into a black mass that shot towards one person. Gray. Chapter 519. Oh no, Sylvia exclaimed, before making a quick hand seal. A lightning seal appeared that she sent towards the black mass that was shooting towards Gray. The seal expanded to cover it completely, but a single dot from the black mass managed to pass through the lightning seal, before shooting straight to Gray's shoulder. Gray and Void, who was on his shoulder, vanished before the black dot managed to get to him, appearing a few meters away. But their expressions changed when the dot appeared in front of them at the same time. They all watched helplessly as the black dot touched Gray on his shoulder. Gray was a little taken aback when he didn't feel anything after it touched him, and couldn't help but do a double take at Sylvia, giving her a questioning look. "Take off your shirt," Sylvia ordered while walking closer to him. Gray did as instructed, and on the upper left of his shoulder was a small black skull tattoo. "Shit. Gray, since when did you get a tattoo?" Void asked, stunned. "What do you mean by that? We've literally been together almost all through. How would I get a tattoo without you knowing about it?" Gray asked with a confused expression. He made an ice mirror behind him to help him see what was on his back. When he saw the black skull, he didn't need anyone to tell him it was a result of the black dot that hit him. Luckily, the tattoo was only around 5 centimeters big. "What's this?" He turned to Sylvia. "It's a mark. This will notify any necromancer around that you're someone that has something extremely valuable. To create this mark, a necromancer will have to sacrifice their own life force, so others will know you have something that will be beneficial to them," Sylvia explained. "Can't we remove it?" Gray asked. "No, even someone more powerful than I am wouldn't be able to." There was an instance when the greatest genius in the Middle Continent was marked. He was from the strongest faction there. Even the faction leader who was standing at the top of the world was unable to remove. 20 years later, the genius was killed and turned into one of the tools these bastards used to fight. Sylvia shook her head. For the first time since Gray knew her, he could tell she was genuinely worried about him. "Now what?" Gray asked. He hated being in this kind of situation. This was exactly why he had to leave the Azure continent, yet it was happening all over again. "You're lucky I was here, although I was unable to stop it. I managed to reduce the marking to the bare minimum. This means only necromancers around 1 or 2 kilometers away from you can sense you," Sylvia replied. "Oh, thank you. But what I want to know is if there's any way to remove it completely." Gray appreciated her help before asking. He was slightly annoyed. Had Sylvia not tried to kill the necromancer, or even taken him along, none of this would have happened to him. "None that I know of, unfortunately. Although I've heard other necromancers can remove this mark, none of them would be willing to help. So you're stuck with it for now," Sylvia replied. "Damn it. Again, I'll have to hide for my life again." Gray punched the tree that was by his side, destroying it to pieces. Sylvia looked at him for a while, feeling a little sad about what happened to him. "The only way for you to escape this is by growing stronger. Growing strong enough that no one can threaten you," she said. "Heh, you say it like it's easy. I tried breaking through to the Overlord plane throughout the night, but I was unsuccessful. I did as instructed, but the result was the same," Gray said, still annoyed by what happened. "Don't rush it, there's a reason you're unable to break through for now. Come on, we should head back," Sylvia advised. "Fine." Gray sighed in dejection. There was nothing left for him to do, and anger wouldn't solve the problem. "I'll need to think of a way to create an array that can decrease the distance. This is the best thing I can do for now," he thought. A genius from the Middle Continent, not only from the Middle Continent, but also from the strongest faction, was marked and killed 20 years after. If even that genius couldn't escape from his fate with the backing that he had, then how would someone like him who didn't have anyone survive? He would be lucky if he even survived a month, much less 20 years. "Don't worry too much, necromancers are hated all over, so they're always in hiding. The odds of meeting one is very low," Sylvia encouraged before they took flight, heading back to the city. Gray didn't speak for the rest of the day. Locking himself in the tavern, he brought out all the books he had on arrays, trying to find the best concealing array. He also tried studying the mark, trying to find out how other necromancers would be able to sense it, so he would know the best way to block it. Sylvia and Void took charge of finding out when the competition would take place, and also signing Gray up. The next day, Loire City was abuzz with the streets filled with people that were walking towards the northern part of the city. They were all heading to where the competition would be held. In a tavern. Knock, knock. "Gray, come out, we're going to be late." Sylvia knocked on Gray's door. Click, creak. The door opened slightly, and Gray peeked out. When Sylvia saw his look, she took a step back unconsciously. "Why are you looking like that?" she asked. "Nothing. I've been staring at books since we got back yesterday." What do you expect? Gray replied grumpily. Dark circles could be seen below his eyes, and his hair was disarranged. Wash up and let's go. I'll be waiting for you in the hall. Sylvia pushed his head back into the room before shutting the door from the outside and walking away. Chapter 520. Loire City. In the biggest arena owned by the city, countless people flocking into the arena, all excited from the battles that would be taking place. Presently, most of the geniuses in the Acer region were gathered here. The competition would last for about a week or so, since the number of youths who would be competing was many. The first group who would compete were those in the origin plane. There isn't a ranking for those below the late stages of the origin plane. By the time Gray and his gang got there, the battles had already started, with multiple people fighting in different arenas. Sylvia asked around, and luckily for Gray, this wasn't all the people in the origin plane. From what she found out, a total of around 700 registered for the origin plane ranking matches. With the numbers being that high, they couldn't fight all the battles one-on-one. So the hosts of the competition went with the decision of a crowded battle. 50 people would be placed in a single stage that was around 150 square meters, and the last 15 would go into the next round. There are a total of 8 stages in the arena, and people are currently fighting in all of them. The first 400 people had started fighting by the time Gray got there. Once this set is done, the next set would come on stage. Gray would be going with the next set. Your luck isn't that bad, Sylvia commented. Really? I am marked by some psycho, so that whenever his psycho friends are nearby they can kill me, and you're saying I'm lucky. Gray looked at Sylvia, his expression blank. It could have been worse. Sylvia shrugged. Gray wanted to continue speaking, but he decided against it. Arguing with Sylvia wasn't going to change anything, but he couldn't hide the fact that he was annoyed. 30 minutes later, the battles on most of the stages had come to an end, with only 2 stages still having more than 15 people. A few minutes later the battles all stopped, with 15 people left on each stage. They were each given a plaque before being told to take their seats. The next set of people was called to come on stage. Each person was to bring an insignia given to them when they registered for the competition. Sylvia handed Gray the insignia she was given when she signed him up for the competition. Don't disgrace me, she whispered in his ear while giving him the insignia. Gray took the insignia grumpily and walked to the 3rd stage on the right. After showing the man at the front of the stage the insignia, he was allowed to step onto the stage. They waited patiently till the 50 people were complete in all the stages, before the battles were allowed to start. As soon as the battle started, almost everyone attacked the people close to them. There were a few people who teamed up to fight against others. Gray retreated to the edge of the stage, and watched as others started fighting against each other. Given the size of the stage, it was normal that each fighter's attack will affect others. Gray stood at the edge, blocking all the after effects of the attacks on the stage that was coming towards him. Within a few seconds, the fighters started eliminating each other. As long as one was pushed out of the stage, then they had been eliminated. On the stage Gray was standing, there was a group of 15 who wore the same clothing, clearly from the same faction. They started eliminating others at an amazing speed, alarming others. By the time the rest of the people on the stage figured out what was happening, it was already too late. Over 15 people had been eliminated by the group within a short period of a few minutes. Gray had eliminated 2 unfortunate people who attacked him, knocking them unconscious, while others had also eliminated a few. Presently, there were 28 people left on the stage, and 15 of them were from the same faction. Gray was standing silently at the edge of the stage, while the remaining 12 were looking at the group of 15 and each other cautiously. Let's team up and eliminate some of them, someone suggested, since they were currently in a standoff. Yes, the others nodded, before turning to look at Gray. You can do whatever you want, just don't disturb me, Gray said before sitting down. His words stunned everyone on the stage, especially the 12 people who wanted to team up with each other. What? Who the hell do you think you are? One of the young men from the group of 12 asked angrily before attacking him. Boom. The attack exploded out, but soon died down as if absorbed by something. To their surprise, Gray was still standing on the same spot, not moving an inch. Bang! An explosion suddenly rang out, and the young man who attacked Gray was sent flying, crashing out of the stage. When the group looked at where the young man was standing, they were surprised to see Gray standing there, red lightning dancing across his body. Don't disturb me, Gray repeated, before walking back to his position at the edge of the stage. The young man Gray eliminated with a single attack was at the peak of the origin plane, just like him. But it was easy for all to see the difference in strength between them. The group swallowed in fright, before turning to look at the group of 15. Now, their only hope was to find a way to eliminate some of them. The thought of using them to eliminate Gray crossed their minds, but they knew the group of 15 weren't foolish enough to fight against Gray while they were still there. The best thing to do was to eliminate them before ganging up on Gray. Most of the people here were around the 7th, 8th, and 9th stages. Other than Gray, only 5 others were at the peak of the origin plane, and 3 of them were in the group of 15. This was going to be the quickest match in all the stages, and there was no way for the group of 11 to turn things around. Chapter 521. Boom, bam, bang. The battle raged on, and the group of 11 fought zealously. The crowd was impressed by their performance. Unfortunately, there was no way for them to defeat the group of 15, who were already very good at working together. Some people complained, feeling this was cheating, but unfortunately, grouping up wasn't against the rules of this battle, so the hosts didn't see any reason to stop this battle. After 7 minutes, there were 16 people left on the stage, the group of 15, and Gray, who was standing by the side, minding his business. It was as if the battle had nothing to do with him. Sensing their gazes, Gray turned to look at them. "What do you want?" he asked grumpily. "You're very cocky. If you had teamed up with those guys, I'm sure you would have been able to grab a spot." One of the trio at the peak of the origin plane said to Gray, "Huh, you guys are done." Gray opened his eyes to look at the group. He wasn't really concerned about this fight. While on the stage, he was running through multiple simulations of arrays that he would use to conceal the aura of the mark on his back. His question annoyed the group of 15. "Look, you weirdo, I admit that you're strong, but I'll advise you to walk away if you know what's good for you." A young lady from the group said to him, "Haven't you people decided who to kick out yet?" Gray asked with a confused look. "Be fast with it, I'm in a hurry," he added. His attitude not only shocked those on the stage, but the crowd watching it were also surprised by his behavior. He not only refused to form a group with others so they could fight against the group of 15, he even eliminated one of them because they disturbed him. Now, he was telling the group of 15 who had been working together since the start of the battle to eliminate one of their group members. How does his head work? This was the question running through the minds of the people who were watching the battle on that stage. "Let's send him out," one of the young men in the group said. The others nodded before all attacking at the same time. Boom. Gray stood with his hands behind his back, watching the attacks coming his way. He sighed before shaking his head. Buzz. Buzz. Red lightning suddenly flashed across his body and he disappeared, turning into a streak of lightning. He danced around the stage, dodging all the attacks that the group sent towards him. Bam! The sound of someone being hit reverberated on the platform. Crash! Bang! A figure was sent flying from the group, crashing outside the stage. It was none other than the young man who urged the others to attack with him. Gray was standing with one leg on the ground, and the other leg raised, in a position of just kicking someone. He dropped his foot before walking towards the exit of the stage with his hands in his pocket. "With 15 left, can I go now?" he asked the man supervising their stage. "Normally, you should wait till the other battles are done, but I'll make an exception. Here's your number, you'll use this for the next round of battles." The man passed on a small plaque to him. "Thank you." Gray accepted it before walking away, leaving behind a dumbfounded group who still couldn't comprehend how he managed to move that fast. Gray walked towards the stands, taking a seat close to Sylvia, before getting lost in thoughts once again. Sylvia knew the reason he was like this, so she didn't bother him, and continued watching the battles on the stages. 1 hour later, all the battles had ended, and it was time to announce the sequence for the next round. There are a total of 105 participants left, and they would be having a one-on-one battle elimination match. The hosts decided to start the next round on the same day, since there was still some time before sunset. Gray was among the first few people who were called out to fight against an opponent. He was so distracted that he was almost ruled out. Luckily, Sylvia managed to snap him out of it in time. He went on stage and literally sent his opponent flying with a single kick. No flashy moves, no words, just one kick, and he was done with it. This wasn't a contest for him anyway. Sylvia and Void knew he could easily stroll through the fighters in the origin plane without so much as breaking a single sweat. That day soon ended with 52 people eliminated from this round. The next round would be taking place the next day. Since the number was still above 50 that was left, a draw would take place for 5 people to fight in a battle royal of some sort. 3 people would be eliminated, so that the top 50 could be decided. The next day, Sylvia was the one who called Gray once again, dragging him to the arena. When they got there, the battle royal was just about to start, and Gray was part of it. The reason he was placed here was that he was among the few people who weren't in the previous top 50 in the Geniuses rankings for those in the origin plane. Presently, almost everyone from the previous ranking was still here. According to what he found out, this next round would be people trying to challenge those at a higher rank. This means, unlike the previous battles where they were given opponents, they could pick who they wanted to fight. The battle royal soon started, and just like what happened in the 50-person battle royal, Gray walked to the edge of the stage, sat down, leaving a word for the 4 others who wanted to fight. Do not disturb me. Chapter 522. This was the first time the group of 4 was seeing him, so they found his behavior downright outrageous. Who the hell does he think he is? One of the youths on the stage asked. A proud fool. That's what he is, another said. Let's kick him out before fighting to see who stays, one of them suggested. The others nodded to this suggestion since they all had a common enemy. Gray? Gray opened his eyes to see all 4 youths walking towards him, 1 female and 3 males. He narrowed his eyes to a slit before standing up. Looks like I should eliminate 3 of them and challenge the number on the rankings, and be done with this, Gray said to himself. After coming to a decision, he vanished. Bam, bang, crash. With the sounds of flesh hitting flesh, 3 figures were sent flying from the stage, all landing outside the stage at the same time. A young man was the only one Gray left on the stage. The reason for this was because the young man was the strongest and naturally deserved to go through. He turned to look at the supervisor, and it was unexpectedly the same man from the previous day. Can I challenge someone now? He asked after walking close to the man. Not yet. Your names will have to be registered into the Geniuses rankings before you can challenge someone ahead of you. Take note, you only have 3 chances. The supervisor said. I only need 1. Gray replied. He went back to his seat while his name and that of the young man were registered in the Geniuses rankings. A huge stone descended from the sky, and at the top of it was the word Origin Plane boldly written on it. Below it were names along with numbers. It went from number 1 to 50. Gray's name appeared at number 49. After this was done, the hosts called for the top 50 to step forward. Gray was naturally the one who caught the most attention. The reason for this was because he was someone unknown in the region, so the majority of the top factions here were hoping to recruit him. These competitions are held by the factions of a region. It is done in every region, and it's what they use to fish out hidden talents. They've managed to get multiple from these competitions, and currently, they're all vying for who would be able to lure Gray to their faction. Unfortunately for them, Gray was not the least bit interested in joining any faction right now. Even if he wanted to join one, it would be one that can protect him until he grows strong enough. The top 50 were rewarded with some essence stones and an elemental weapon each. Gray kept his before walking away from the stage. Sylvia told him not to challenge the person in the first position yet, since she would like to watch others fight. If Gray challenged the person ranked first and easily defeated them, then the others would lose their will to fight properly. Since the first place was taken, Gray sat down and closed his eyes, making simulations of a raise once again. Sylvia promised to remind him when it was time for him to challenge the person who was first in the rankings. The Geniuses rankings are updated monthly, and the person who is number 1 for those in the origin plane was a young lady who was at the peak of the plane. She was said to be a rare light and darkness dual elementalist. After those in lower ranks challenged each other, it slowly moved to those in higher ranks, with the intensity of battles increasing as the ranks increased. The rankings kept changing with almost every challenge, with many people losing their previous positions, and new people going higher. While the battles were still ongoing, 2 individuals walked into one of the stages, attracting the attention of everyone in the arena. They were the 2 currently ranked 1 and 2 in the Geniuses rankings. Ezra Mason, the young lady ranked number 1, and Jesse Hanks, The young man ranked number 2. They were both at the peak of the origin plane, and each of them was a dual elementalist. One of them had the light and darkness element, which was a rare combination, and the other has the space and fire element. Ezra, looks like you'll be losing your number 1 rank today, Jesse said coolly. You've grown stronger after your expedition, but I don't think you will be able to defeat me, Ezra said with a smile. Heh, we'll see about that. Jesse smiled before flames erupted around him. Just as he was about to attack, he heard a voice calling for them to stop. Stop. They turned to look at who was speaking, and it was none other than Gray. What are you doing? Why are you interfering in their match? The supervisor in charge of that stage questioned coldly. The judges from the different factions also looked at Gray oddly. They all had an interest in this masked boy, but they didn't understand why he would stop the most anticipated battle in the origin plane. As much as I'd like to see them fight, I don't want to fight against a weakened opponent, Gray said. Meaning, the supervisor asked with narrowed eyes. I want to challenge them right now. After I'm done with them, they can fight for the scraps, Gray said nonchalantly. His words invited rage from the crowd, Ezra and Jesse, as well as the judges from the factions, especially the 2 factions Ezra and Jesse belonged to. Be careful what you wish for, boy. You might have some potential, but don't forget that others your age are already in the Overlord plane, one of the judges said coldly. The meaning of his statement was as clear as day for all to see. If Gray was really talented, then he wouldn't still be in the origin plane. Chapter 523. What I wish for is none of your business. Gray turned to the judge coldly. Pestilent child, I hope you do not regret your decision, the judge replied. His impression of Gray just took a big dip down. He was even having thoughts of trying to recruit Gray a few minutes ago, but now he wanted nothing more than for Ezra and Jesse to beat the living hell out of him. Ezra turned to look at Jesse. Why don't I give you the pleasure of satisfying the wish of my teacher? Jesse squinted his eyes, looking at Gray. As you wish, but as soon as I am done with this shrimp, we'll begin our battle. He nodded. Ezra smiled before turning to look at Gray coldly. Since he dared to speak to her teacher so rudely, he had entered her blacklist. If she were the one who fights against him, she didn't know if she could hold herself back from killing him. Where do you think you're going? Gray asked as Ezra was about to step down from the stage. Ezra paused, looking at Gray with her icy gaze. Only after you defeat him do you have the right to speak to me. Her words showed her proud nature. Gray wanted to stop her, but since he decided against it, fine, stand by the side, you'll be coming in shortly. After saying that, he walked onto the stage, staring at the huge stone that was in the sky. He was a little interested in how it worked, but he didn't have the luxury of checking it out, since he had a lot on his hands right now. Where did a proud monkey like you come from? Jesse asked after Gray stood in front of him. Gray tilted his head slightly to the side when he heard his words, staring at the youth who was speaking to him. He didn't say a word, turning to look at the supervisor as if to ask, when can I start pummeling this guy? Begin. The supervisor called out a few seconds later. As soon as the supervisor called for the start of the battle, Jesse vanished. He was a space elementalist, so he wouldn't attack like others. This was Gray's first time in dealing with other space elementalists aside from Void, and he couldn't help but shake his head at Jesse's use of the space element. When the crowd saw Jesse disappear, they all thought this was the end for Gray. Looks like the battle ended before it even began, Ezra commented. Jesse rarely starts a battle with the space element unless he has the utmost confidence in being able to come out on top. Just as everyone was waiting for Jesse to appear out of the blue and send Gray flying, they saw something that stunned them. Gray, who was previously standing idly on the stage, took a simple step forward, stretched out his right hand to the left, and to the greatest shock of every person in the arena, except for Void and Sylvia, Jesse suddenly appeared, his neck firmly grabbed by Gray. It was like he pulled him out of the space tunnel he was hiding. What? The judges, crowd, supervisor, and other fighters were dumbstruck by what they saw. Gray was slightly taller than Jesse. Holding him by the neck, he holstered him up into the air, with just one hand. It was like he was holding a baby. He tilted his head to the side, studying Jesse properly. You were saying? He asked mockingly. With a simple motion, he tossed Jesse out of the stage, a small smile on his face. Although he was currently grumpy, He didn't want to create enemies all around, else he would have beaten Jesse to the state that he would find it difficult to walk for a month or so. Crash. Bam. Jesse's figure first crashed on the stage, before sliding out of it, landing on the ground outside the stage. Ezra, who was still just outside the stage, was left shocked and confused. She couldn't comprehend how it happened. Only those with a much higher cultivation base clearly understood what just happened. Gray being able to accurately pinpoint Jesse's position and fishing him out of the space tunnel was no easy feat even for a space elementalist. But he did it with such ease that they found it almost difficult to accept. The judge who was speaking to Gray previously was left a little perplexed. "You're also a space elementalist?" he asked with a low voice. Gray didn't reply, but his silence said the answer everyone wanted to know. He truly was a space elementalist. No wonder he's this confident, Ezra muttered outside the stage. Doubt was slowly coming into her head since she knew even at her best day and Jesse's worst, she couldn't defeat him so easily. If Gray could throw him out of the stage so easily, then the odds of her being able to defeat him was not good. "Please come in. I'm in a hurry," Gray said, taking a step back as if saying, "If you're scared, I will give you more room." "Ezra, be careful. He is not as weak as you think," Jesse, who had already stood up from the side, said as he walked towards the stage. He was feeling slightly embarrassed after being beaten in such a quick time, and even after he brought out his biggest guns to boot. "Don't worry. I will help you send him packing. Maybe now you will acknowledge me as the strongest after I defeat him." Ezra's confidence slowly started to come back as she boldly stepped onto the stage. Jesse nodded, before a step back. What he found surprising was that Gray left him in a perfect state. He was basically still the same way he was before the fight started. It was as if he hadn't been in a battle a few moments ago. "I will defeat you," Ezra said as she stood before Gray. "Feel free," Gray replied nonchalantly while giving an inviting gesture. He turned to look at the supervisor, waiting for him to call for the battle to begin. Chapter 524. I should take this opportunity to study the light element up close, but I really do not have that time, Gray contemplated as the supervisor called for the battle to start. This was his first chance to witness the light element firsthand, and if not for his current predicament, he would have taken the opportunity to try and see if he could learn a thing or two from it. Unfortunately, he still had multiple array simulations he was running in his head even as he was fighting, so he didn't want to waste any time here. I'll just observe it a little before defeating her. He finally came to a decision. Although he was pressed on time, this was an opportunity for him. He didn't know when next he might encounter a light elementalist he could fight against. Sylvia wasn't a good choice, and he was sure it wouldn't be easy to get her to show him the light element as much as he wanted, if he wanted to comprehend it. After the supervisor called for the battle to begin, white light surrounded Ezra's body, making her look like a goddess. She was beautiful to begin with, coupled with the light. It was as if she was not from this world. Her figure suddenly vanished from where she was standing, almost as quickly as Jesse did. Swoosh. But compared to Jesse's, Gray wouldn't have the privilege of using his advantage of the space element to fish her out. She could easily dodge Gray if he tried to attack her. Boom. Bam. Ezra attacked with the darkness element, but Gray was already prepared for her attacks. With simple side steps, he dodged all her attacks by the tiniest of margins while studying her movements. Bang. Boom. Ezra continued attacking non-stop, but each attack was hitting empty air. Gray didn't dodge the attacks with any flashy moves. All he did was to sidestep at the last minute, making sure the attack missed him by a hair's breadth. The attacks continued for more than a minute, and everyone found it odd that Gray wasn't making any signs of attacking. At the judge's area, "What is he doing?" the judge, who is Ezra's teacher, asked curiously. "He seems to be studying her movement." From his reaction, it's like he finds the light element to be very intriguing, so he wants to study it more. Another judge said, "From all of them here, she was the most observant person, so it wasn't too difficult for her to discern what Gray was doing." Sigh after he defeated Jesse. "I knew Ezra was no match for him." Ezra's teacher shook his head sadly. It's not something to be sad about. You can clearly tell he's from a powerful background. Maybe he is stuck at the origin plane and seeking ways to break through it. From how he didn't hurt Jesse when they fought, you can tell that he's not a bad person. The lady who was able to discern Gray's motive for not attacking Ezra said. The other judges nodded to what she said. Gray's strength wasn't something that a genius in a region like theirs could have. Even if he was from their region, he must have been recruited from his early ages by big factions. After almost 2 minutes, Gray shook his head in amazement. The speed of the light element was unbelievable. Even with Ezra's low plane, she is easily faster than most first stage Overlord plane elementalists, and even some in the second plane. Gray was using her help to further hone his space element, so he could dodge faster with it, while also studying the light element. So far, he had gotten nothing from staring at it, but he wasn't sad since he knew it would only take some time, but he would surely get it. Time to end this, he said to himself after dodging Ezra's attack once again. This time, he called upon his lightning element, using it with the help of the space element. He vanished while covered with red lightning, and as soon as his figure appeared again, he was in front of Ezra. Ezra tried to move to the side, but Gray was faster, anticipating her next move. It was as if everywhere was blocked, and she found it difficult to resist. Gray stretched out his hand quickly, and just like Jesse, he grabbed her by the neck, lifting her up easily for all to see, before tossing her out of the stage, in the same manner as he did to Jesse. With that, Gray's name on the stone board suddenly lit up, before quickly jumping from the second place to the first. His name had moved from the 49th to second place after he defeated Jesse, pushing him to third place. But he didn't really take note of it. He only looked at it after he defeated Ezra. I left them in perfect condition, so they can still fight against each other, Gray said to Ezra's teacher. When the judges found out the reason he didn't harm either Ezra or Jesse, they were a little taken aback. He left them in perfect fighting conditions, so that they could still fight against each other. His sense of reasoning is definitely not like the rest, the lady amongst the judges said. HMPH. But it doesn't give him the right to be arrogant. His arrogance will lead to his downfall. Ezra's teacher snorted coldly. Of everyone here, he was one of the few who found Gray as an eyesore. Gray is currently the first amongst all Origin Plane elementalists in the Acer region, but it wasn't something he was really proud of. Looking at the name Gray Dawson, Sylvia turned to look at Gray strangely, but she shook her head soon after when she realized how clueless Gray was. She didn't think he was from the family that came to mind when she saw the name Dawson. As things are, no one would want to challenge Gray, so it was easy to say that the first position was already secured. Now, all that was left was for those in lower ranks to fight to try to increase their ranks. Chapter 525. With the first position claimed, Ezra and Jesse still fought fiercely for the second place. Ezra won by the smallest of margins. Their battle was the only battle fought that Gray watched, discarding his thought process for the few minutes the battle was on. The reason he watched it was to get an outer view of the light element. There is a difference between experiencing it up close and looking at it from a distance. When the battles for the rankings of the Origin Plane concluded, the judges called those whose names were in the top 10 to step into the stage to receive their rewards. While Gray was outside, he asked Sylvia a question that was bothering him. He wanted to know how the stone worked, since it was able to automatically move his name to the first place after he defeated Ezra. According to Sylvia, in the small amulets given to them after they qualified for the top 50, a small portion of their essences was taken from it. This amulet is made from the same item as the stone board, and it was connected via an array. No matter where Gray or other individuals ranked in it, as long as any of them is defeated by someone on the rankings, that person would take their spot on the rankings, pushing them down. Gray was left surprised when he was asked what item he wanted as a reward, and rather than asking for a technique that everyone thought he would, he requested a book on arrays. It can't be helped, he really wanted to increase his knowledge of them as quickly as possible. The arrays here are more complex when compared to the one back at the Azure continent, and since the chance presented itself, why not take it? After the rewards were given to the top 10, the first stage of the competition was concluded. Now, it was time to start the second stage of the competition, the ranking for Overlord Plane Elementalists. The first set was for the early stages rankings. Only Elementalists in the first stage of the Overlord Plane to the third stage are allowed to participate in this set. Before Gray left after collecting his reward, he asked the judges if he could be allowed to also participate in the early stages rankings for the Overlord plane. His request threw them off their feet, as they didn't expect he would want to try out his strength against those in the Overlord plane. After giving it some thought, they didn't feel it was odd given how strong he was. Even Ezra and Jesse were also planning to take part in it as well, so why couldn't the person who defeated them easily also take part as well? The lady amongst the judges gave Gray the go-ahead to participate. With that, he left the arena altogether. The next round would begin the next day, and he wanted to try to study the books on arrays he was given. When he requested a book on array, he was actually given 3 instead of 1. Just like before, Gray stepped into his room and shut his door, before taking out the books on arrays and studying them. Sylvia and Void were left to wander around the city alone. Unlike Gray, they didn't enjoy solitude. The next day, the next round of the competition was about to begin, and a fair few individuals in the Origin plane were said to be taking part as well. The most notable name was none other than that of the current newly crowned #1 genius in the Origin plane. Across the entire ASA region, Gray Dawson. It was said that he won the competition without facing any challenges. Not everyone watched the battle take place, so there were fresh faces who came just to see this young genius who managed to sweep the ground with those in his cultivation stage. By the time Gray came to the arena, the battles had started. It was just like the time they came for battles for those in the Origin plane. In comparison to the number of participants in the Origin plane, there were fewer people at this stage. According to what was registered, there were around 500 or so youths who registered for this stage of the competition. Just like the first stage, they would be having a battle royale. Only 20 people would be going through from each stage instead of 15. There would be a total of 50 participants in a single stage as well, making things quicker. But unlike the Origin plane battles, the previous top 10 in the early stages, Geniuses rankings, wouldn't participate in this round of battles. When Gray stepped into the arena, he quickly attracted the attention of a lot of individuals. It was impossible for him to hide from them. His dressing, appearance, hair, and mask were too distinct from others. People were pointing at him, showing him to those who were unfortunate not to be here the previous day, to watch him breeze through his opponents. "We're late again," Sylvia complained when she realized that the battles had started. "Better late than never, right?" Gray asked with open arms. "We should be done with this and leave soon. We still have other regions to go to," Sylvia replied. "I'll be doing this again?" Gray asked, concerned. "No, instead, you'll be challenging those ranked first. This way, you would save yourself the time of going through this long process," Sylvia answered while they headed to their seats. Since Gray was ranked the #1 genius in the Origin plane, he had a special seat designated for him in the arena. Of course, he could bring those close to him along. When Gray heard Sylvia's words, he heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't have the time to go around for competitions, but challenging a single individual was less time-consuming and more straightforward. Had he known, he would have waited till the winner was announced before challenging them in this competition. But he couldn't say he didn't like his reward though. Chapter 526. 20 minutes later, it was time for the next set to get on stage. While walking to the stage, Gray was sensible enough to study the people who were heading towards the stage he wanted to pick. He might be arrogant, but he's definitely not stupid. Taking Overlord plane elementalists like they were Origin plane elementalists would be the biggest mistake he'll ever make in this competition, and since he planned to stay in the competition for a long time, he couldn't be careless. Before getting to the stage, he had surveyed where all the participants were headed. Thanks to this, he didn't have any issues with picking a stage to get on. Of the 2 stages that would be used, the last one was the one least occupied by people in the 3rd stage of the Overlord plane, and that was the one he picked. Ezra and Jesse were surprisingly also in this stage as well, and seeing Gray come towards the stage, they narrowed their eyes. Everyone here recognized Gray, and there were a few Overlord plane elementalists that were eager to show this newly crowned #1 genius in the Origin plane some lessons. While waiting for the battle to begin, Gray took the liberty of approaching Ezra and Jesse. "What do you want?" Ezra asked when she saw him getting close. "As you can see, I'm not particularly welcome in the eyes of many here, so I feel our chances would be great if we were to team up," Gray said with a smile. Ezra and Jesse paused, surprised by Gray's words. They originally thought he was the arrogant type given his display from the previous day. Only now did they know that he was a totally different person. Actually, you approaching her has made you even more unwelcomed in the eyes of most of the male elementalists here. As you can see, a lot of them have a thing for Ezra, and some would feel beating you might be the opportunity they need to get closer to her, Jesse said. Gray turned around, and he couldn't help but shake his head when he saw the gazes most of the male elementalists on the stage were giving him. Sighed. Great. Just when I thought it wouldn't get worse, he sighed dejectedly. All right, I'll move away. See you guys in the next round then. He turned around, walking to another side of the stage. Jesse and Ezra nodded, but it was after Gray left did they suddenly recall his last words. Did he just say see you guys in the next round? Ezra couldn't help but ask. Yeah. Jesse nodded, stumped by Gray's confidence, even after seeing how the situation looked. From the gazes some of the boys here were giving Gray, it was evident that he would be the target of many, all wishing to eliminate him even before the competition goes far. The remaining participants soon got on the other stages, and it was time for the supervisors to call for the start of the battles. Most of the attention from the crowd was placed on the stage where Gray was standing. They all wanted to see how this genius would fare against opponents on another plane. Would he be able to breeze through like he previously did in the Origin plane competition? Or would he be stopped early on? Begin. Boom, bang, bam. As soon as the supervisor called for the battle to begin, Gray's location was instantly flooded with a series of attacks, each attack coming from a different individuals. When Sylvia and Void made a head count, there were about 11 people attacking Gray simultaneously. It was a shocking scene as different elements converged on one position. Those who were standing close to Gray had already created some space between them just when the battle was about to begin, since they sensed what would happen after the battle started. Ezra and Jesse watched on with great interest, waiting for the attacks to die down. Although Gray's situation was attracting a lot of conditions, other people had started fighting on the stage as well as the other two. Swoosh, bang, a blue flame was seen spreading at the center of the attacks, before exploding out in all directions, sending out a powerful shockwave across the entire stage. Some unlucky individuals who were standing at the edge of the stage were even knocked off, getting eliminated by the power of the shockwave. The others on stage turned to look at the cause of the shockwave, and to their surprise, Gray could be seen standing there, blue flames burning around him as he looked around with cold eyes. This was the first time he was displaying another element other than the lightning and space element, and the power of his flames sent chills down the spines of some of the Overlord plane elementalists in the stage as well as the arena. At the judges' area, blue flames, he also has red lightning, right? Ezra's teacher asked when he saw Gray's fire. Yes, for a single individual to possess two special elements is not something you see every day. Another judge nodded. This boy is a real talent. If he can get through this stage, I don't mind recruiting him. A lady said. Why are you sounding as if you're giving him a privilege? Given the strength he has shown, do you think we'll sit idly and watch you snatch him up? None of the geniuses in this region seems to hold a light when placed in front of him. An old man said. Isn't that a little bit too exaggerated? Don't forget that he's only still at the peak of the Origin plane. Ezra's teacher said. Of all the people here, he was the only one who didn't like Gray. One of the reasons for this was because of the manner in which Gray decided his prize pupil. While the judges were arguing on who would recruit Gray, the battle had started once again. On the stage, after Gray blocked the attacks with his flames, he didn't hold back and instantly attacked the group who attacked him in the first place, charging straight right into them. Chapter 527. Gray's movement was causing mayhem on the stage, as it was difficult for others to touch him, yet he was sending people flying one by one. This time, the crowd got to see some of his strength, and they couldn't hide the awe in their eyes. Those who watched him yesterday felt like they were currently watching a different person, while the ones who came to see him today felt like it was totally worth it. Bam, boom, crash. Gray kept attacking ferociously, not giving his opponents the opportunity to get a strike at him. After the first surprise, the battles had started once again on the stage, and with Gray breaking through the circle of the 11 people, it paved the way for others to eliminate some of them, while they were scampering around to block Gray's attacks. Within the short time of 3 minutes, Gray managed to eliminate 8 people in total, which was the highest for a single individual in all the stages. And the fact that the person with the highest elimination count was still in the origin plane was even more fascinating. Boom, bang. Gray didn't show any signs of slowing down as he continued attacking. He was like the ultimate filter, picking out all the weak people, while leaving the strongest ones on the stage. 10 minutes later, the battle in Gray's stage had ended, all thanks to Gray's quick actions. There were currently only 20 people left standing on the stage, and of the 20 people, only 4 of them were in the origin plane. Gray, Ezra, Jesse, and the young man who is ranked 5th in the origin plane geniuses rankings. Of the 30 people eliminated, Gray single-handedly eliminated 15, a staggering figure given the number of people on the stage. There were even a few people in the 3rd stage of the Overlord plane in this stage, but none of them was able to eliminate up to 5 on their own. It took almost 10 minutes of waiting before the battles on the other stages showed signs of stopping. After the battles ended, there were a total of 200 participants left, excluding the top 10 who weren't a part of this stage. The supervisors handed out small plaque-like amulets to Gray and the others who qualified. Since there are 110 more people, another elimination match will take place later today. 130 people would be randomly selected, and once you see your amulet light up, know you're part of them. Only 20 of these 130 people would advance to the next round of the competition. The supervisor explained. Gray and the rest of the people on stage listened closely. When they all heard that only 20 people would advance in a total of 130 people, they looked at each other with fiery eyes. There were a few people who threw a glance in Gray's direction. His performance in the previous round didn't go unnoticed. And even though most of the people he eliminated were in the 1st stage of the Overlord plane, he still eliminated a fair few in the 2nd stage. Presently, he was one of the few people that others were actually praying not to get selected for this round. Other than him, the only other people they didn't want to be picked were mostly in the 3rd stage of the Overlord plane, with a few in the 2nd stage. After the supervisor was done with his explanation, the lights on the amulets of the participants started to go off one by one. Before long, the 80 people who would be taking part in the next round of battles had been decided, and Gray was among them. Gray stared at the amulet in his hand. It was at times like these that he wished he was as lucky as Klaus in these types of things. If Klaus were to be here, then he would definitely not be part of these people who would be fighting to get into the next round. He didn't know how he did it, but so long as it involved luck in skipping a battle, he was almost 100% certain that Klaus would get it. While Gray was reminiscing about his friend, the supervisor told them all to head back to their seats to rest before they started the battle. Since some of them were just involved in a battle, it wouldn't seem fair for them if they started the battle immediately. Why did so many people attack you? Sylvia asked when Gray got back to his seat. Gray went on to explain the whole Ezra dilemma to her. Heh, boys will be boys. She scoffed when she heard the story. They're just a bunch of stupid foolhardy people, Gray said before taking a seat. He had not been one who would fight others because he liked a girl. He didn't even like anyone to begin with other than Alice. He had no other female friend. He could have added Ella, but they barely got to know each other. If not for wanting to get to learn about forge mastering from her, he wouldn't have approached her in the first place. 2 hours soon went by, and it was time for them to step on stage again. Ezra and Jesse were lucky enough not to be part of this set, which meant they'd automatically entered the top 100. The only thing that bothered Gray a little bit was that there were over 15 third stage Overlord plane elementalists that were picked. Not just that, but there were also some powerful second stage Overlord plane elementalists as well. In a one-on-one scenario, he was at least 50% confident, since most of them wouldn't be more powerful than the young man who had an elemental warrior in the Gale region. The third stage Overlord plane was 17 in total, and they wisely separated, giving themselves a better chance of qualifying. Since there were 130 people, 2 stages will have 50 people that would be fighting simultaneously, and 8 qualifying from each, with 30 fighting in the last one stage, and only 4 people qualifying from that one. Chapter 528. Gray didn't head to the stage with 30 people there. The reason was that there were 4 third stage Overlord plane elementalists there, and from what he sensed, they wouldn't be easy to deal with. Not just that, but the 4 of them seemed to be on good terms, so there's the possibility of them working together. With that stage out of the list, he was left with the other two. One of these two had 7 third-stage Overlord Plane Elementalists, while the other had 6. According to the supervisor, 8 people would qualify from this set, while only 4 from the group of 30. Gray surprisingly picked the stage where 7 third-stage Overlord Plane Elementalists were standing. When the fighters saw him walking in, they all hardened their gazes. If they were ever told that an Origin Plane Elementalist would be able to make them this serious while they were in the Overlord Plane, they would never have believed the person. With everything set, all that was left was for the supervisor to call for the start of the battles. The man in charge looked around. After confirming the numbers, he nodded. Begin. Boom. Bam. Attacks flew all around as soon as he called out for the fight to start. Everyone here wanted to qualify, especially after managing to pass the first round. The number of Origin Plane Elementalists in this group was 3, Gray and 2 others. When the battle started, one of them was quickly eliminated. He was unfortunate enough to be standing close to the 3rd stage Overlord Plane Elementalists, and was eliminated by one of them. A 2nd stage Overlord Plane Elementalists attacked Gray since he was the one closest to him. Gray dodged the attack with lightning dancing across his body, and the person behind him was struck by the attack, sending him flying. He countered, shooting a ball of flame towards the youth who attacked him. The young man was a water elementalist. Seeing the fireballs coming towards him, he quickly raised an ice wall in front of him to block it. Bang! The attack slammed into the ice wall. But it wasn't the only thing that did. Cracks appeared on both sides of the ice wall. The one on the front was caused by Gray's fireball. The one on the back was caused when the young man slammed into the wall. He fell to the ground weakly right after, and behind him was Gray, who had a nonchalant look. After he saw the young man setting up a defensive wall, he simply teleported to his back, punching him into the ice wall. Gray grabbed the unconscious youth, tossing him out of the stage, as if he was weightless. While Gray was tossing the young man out of the stage, he was attacked from behind by a young lady in the 1st stage of the Overlord Plane. Gray had always been a cautious person, so there was no way he wouldn't be alert while eliminating the young man. He sidestepped, and the attack of the young lady hit the young man, who was still mid-air, inflicting heavy injuries on him, while also increasing the speed of his movement. Bang! The young man crashed into the ground, bleeding from different parts of his body. Gray, on the other hand, had already engaged the young lady, who thought she could catch him unaware. Within a few moves, he tossed her out of the stage as well. When he was done with her, he went on to the next target. Boom, bam, bang. The battles in the stages raged on, with multiple people being eliminated as time went on. One of the greatest shocks in the battles was the elimination of one of the 3rd stage Overlord Plane Elementalists. He was eliminated by a young lady in the 1st stage of the Overlord Plane. A series of misfortunes was what brought about his elimination, but the young lady played a big part in it. The 1st stage currently had only 5 3rd stage Overlord Plane Elementalists, which boosted the morale of those in that stage. The 2nd stage, which Gray was fighting in, still had all 7 3rd stage Overlord Plane Elementalists. The same thing with the last stage, which still had all 4 of them. Gray had eliminated 5 people since the start of the battle, and other than the young lady in the 1st stage, the other 4 had all been 2nd stage Overlord Plane Elementalists. These people were weaker when compared to those top 2nd stage Overlord Plane Elementalists Gray fought against at the Gel region, so he didn't have any problems in dealing with them. After almost 10 minutes of fighting, there were only 15 people left on the stage Gray was standing on. 6 of them were in the 3rd stage of the Overlord Plane, 8 were in the 2nd, and then there is Gray, an Origin Plane Elementalist. The stage was no longer crowded, so they could all pick a fight against an individual without worrying about getting into another fight. Of course, this didn't mean that they would be careless. One of the 3rd stage Overlord Plane Elementalists walked in Gray's direction. He was a fire elementalist with ember hair. I would like to test the strength of the number 1 genius in the Origin Plane, the young man said humbly. Gray nodded. After all, he wasn't picky with his opponents. The young man bowed, before attacking Gray with a stream of fire. Gray dodged the stream of fire, before sending out an attack of his own. The young man sent out an attack towards Gray's attack. Boom. Their attacks collided, causing a huge explosion. After seeing the duo engage in a fight, the others started to fight as well. They couldn't just sit by and watch. With 15 people left, 7 people had to be eliminated before they could stop fighting. Gray didn't care who those 7 people were. As long as he qualified for the next round, he was satisfied. Chapter 529. The young man with amber hair attacked again, sending a fire blade at Gray that slashed horizontally. Gray set up a defensive ice wall in front of him. Bam! Crack! Bang! The blade broke through the ice wall easily, heading towards Gray. Gray didn't panic, as he sent a fist made of flames at the slash. Boom! The attacks collided, causing a huge shockwave that pushed Gray a few steps back. Before he could regain his footing, the young man appeared above him, cutting down vertically this time. Gray sidestepped, but to his surprise, the young man was able to increase the width of the blade slash, covering almost 10 meters. With no other choice, Gray used the space element to escape from the range of the attack, escaping by a hair's breadth. After he appeared, he attacked the young man instantly, sending out a lightning bolt that almost hit the back of the young man. Bang! The young man turned around quickly, slashing his fire blade at the bolt of lightning that was heading towards him. After deflecting the attack, he continued slashing at Gray, easily breaking the ice wall that Gray tried to use as a defense. Crap. I would have told her I was an earth elementalist. Although, why do I feel like my ice is stronger than it previously was? Gray complained when he saw how easily the young man was breaking through his defense. However, he also noticed that compared to before, his ice ability was stronger. Even though it couldn't hold out against this young man's attack, it was still able to delay it. From Gray's estimation, it was at least 15% stronger than it usually was. But it still isn't as strong as his earth element in terms of defense, yet. Gray bent back, dodging the slash of the blade. Due to the speed of it, it cut a little bit of his hair, almost burning it. Bam! Bang! Boom! The young man with amber hair continued attacking, pushing Gray back. While they were fighting, the others were still fighting, trying their best to eliminate the rest. Of all the battles on the stage though, none of them was as intense and exciting as that of Gray and the young man with amber hair. Gray's performance was not below everyone's expectations, since he was fighting against a powerful third stage Overlord Plane Elementalist, while still being in the Origin Plane. In fact, they all found it almost difficult to accept since, although he has been on the back foot since the battle started, there weren't any signs that the young man was completely dominating him. Ezra and Jesse got further confirmation from this fight that they were no match for Gray. The judges were also watching the battle with keen eyes. The young man with amber hair was one of the strongest individuals amongst those in the third stage, except from the top 10. From what they recalled, he was in the top 20 of the Geniuses rankings. If Gray can hold off against someone in the top 20 in the Geniuses rankings for the early stage Overlord rankings, that meant his strength was unbelievable. While everyone felt Gray was already performing more than expected, he made an attack that shocked everyone, especially the young man who was fighting against him, literally. Buzz. The sound of lightning was heard across the arena as a 10 meters radius around Gray was covered entirely in lightning. The young man with amber hair was within that 10 meters radius, getting the full brunt of the lightning attack. On the ground, what looked like a seal could be seen. It was what brought about Gray's quick lightning attack that took the young man by surprise. The young man convulsed for the first few seconds before his defense wasn't set up, but after that time, he covered his body with the fire element, before shooting out of the 10 meters radius. After coming out, he gasped, trying to catch his breath while staring at Gray warily. He had been on the front foot since the start of the battle, yet Gray was not only able to endure, but he found an opportunity to counterattack as well. The young man's expression changed slightly when Gray, who was still in the curtain of lightning, smiled, and he increased his vigilance. Gray looked around, realizing there were 9 of them on the stage instead of 8. Choosing randomly, he switched positions with another unsuspecting young man in the third stage of Overlord Plane, who was lazing around after defeating his opponent. Buzz. Due to how unexpected it was, he was unable to do anything to defend against this attack. Bam! Crash! The sound of flesh hitting flesh rang across the stage, before the young man's figure was sent flying outside the stage. This was an unexpected outcome nobody felt would happen. Gray used the first chance he got against the young man with amber hair to force him back, while picking a weaker opponent to eliminate. This not only meant that their 2 were qualified for the next round, but it also showed his impeccable battle awareness. Gray had been taking note of what was happening around him even while he was suppressed by the young man. When the opportunity arose, he took it so well that nobody could find any faults with him. It might be a sneak attack, but it was one that was well executed. Other than the young man who he eliminated, no one else found his attackers an eyesore. At the judge's area, clever, taking out 2 birds with 1 stone. He used the same attack for not only pushing back that boy, but also eliminating someone else. But do any of you find the way he switched positions with him strange? One of the ladies amongst the judges asked. He used the space element. This is something I've not seen before. Gem PH. I've always hated space elementalists. They're always a headache for everyone else. Ezra's teacher replied, clearly still not happy with Gray. Chapter 530. On the stage, the young man with amber hair was taken aback when he saw how Gray was able to quickly eliminate the young man. Thank you for letting me advance into the next round, he said to him. He knew his strength, and from how Gray switched positions with that young man before stepping into the lightning once again, it would have been difficult even for him to get out of it in time. Also, when he saw the speed at which Gray eliminated the young man, he knew Gray didn't want to eliminate him, else he could have done so after he was struck by the attack the first time. Compared to him, I am not sure I can eliminate you that easily, Gray replied with a smile. You animal, how dare you eliminate me? While Gray and the young man were exchanging words, they heard a holler from below the stage. Everyone turned to look at the source, and it was none other than the unfortunate young man Gray eliminated. What's the meaning of this? Since you're eliminated, you are no longer allowed onto the stage. Before Gray or the young man with amber hair could respond, the harsh voice of the supervisor was heard from the side. This isn't fair. I challenge him to a deathmatch. If I win, I'll take his spot, the young man declared aggressively. The supervisor took a glance at the judges, and seeing Ezra's teacher nod, he didn't rebuke the young man. Now, it was all in Gray's hands. If Gray agreed to this, then he would allow it. If not, then he would chase the young man away. Gray narrowed his eyes when he heard the words of the young man. Come on, number 1 genius. Are you scared? The young man mocked. Scared of an already defeated opponent? Not a chance. But I am not so evil that I would want you dead. Eliminating you is more than enough, Gray replied. His answer to the young man's challenge was a resounding no. He had other things to worry about. Why would he want to waste his time fighting against this young man? Even though it wouldn't be easy, he knew if he pulled out a few cards, then he would win for sure. He still hadn't used his inscriptions in the battles. Then there was also that space array he learned, which would make it impossible for his opponents to touch him. It wasn't yet time to show his cards, so he wasn't interested in fighting against this young man. Besides, he had defeated him before, although it was from a sneak attack. A defeat was a defeat. Damn you, you scoundrel. Fight me if you dare. The young man wasn't willing to let this go. Not a chance. Gray shrugged, before turning to look at the supervisor, waiting for him to chase the young man away. He wasn't disappointed as the young man was soon chased away by the supervisor. Of course, he continued making a scene, threatening to kill Gray after they left this place. Gray grinned when he heard this, further angering the young man. Of all the things Gray was worried about, being killed by someone while being under the watch of Sylvia wasn't one of them. With Sylvia around, even the judges wouldn't dare to attack him, much less a little figure like the young man. You should be careful. He's from a family of low-level moralist people. They might not hold back in trying to kill you, the young man with amber hair warned. Oh, thank you, but I'm not worried about him. Gray thanked the young man for his concern. The young man nodded, before walking out of the stage. Now, there are 100 people left in the competition. 10 of them had not been involved in any battles, and they were the people who were in the top 10 of the rankings. After this set of battles, the judges called it a day, telling all participants to go back to their places of rest. The competition would continue the next day. Gray and Sylvia walked out of the arena together, heading straight for the tavern. They soon got to the tavern. Looks like that guy didn't make an empty threat. Some people had been following us, and they aren't his people alone. How many people did you offend? Sylvia asked. I have no idea. Gray shrugged before walking into the tavern. This wasn't something he should concern himself with, since Sylvia was the one who made him participate in this competition. then she was the one who would deal with any of the troubles outside the competition. Sylvia looked at Gray's receding figure before shaking her head and stepping into the tavern as well. It was already almost sunset, and she knew if these people wanted to make a move, they would wait until it was dark. She didn't really mind killing them now though, but she was sure not all of them wanted to kill Gray. Some only wanted to confirm where he was staying. The next day, Gray came out as usual, tired from his constant research of arrays. He truly wanted to stop this and get good sleep, but with the knowledge of there being something on his back that would attract people who would want to kill him, he couldn't. How did it go? He asked Sylvia after coming out of his room. Just some small fries we won't be hearing from again, Sylvia replied. All right, thank you, Gray said gratefully before stepping out of the tavern. They headed towards the arena, and on the way, he heard about the corpses of 8 people, which were found in an alley not too far from the tavern he was staying in. Hey, Void, how are you? Gray started conversing with Void as they headed towards the arena. He hadn't been able to speak with him for a while, so he felt now was a good time. This is the end of this video. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed and wish you wonderful rest of the day. The Silent Ruptors out.